What is up, everybody? How is it going? Austin Prechtelevate Performance, coming at you live. Happy Wednesday. It is Winning Wednesday. As you are all tuning in, let me know how your day is going. Feel free to share a win in the comments. We're about to get this thing kicked off here in just a second. Today, though, we're going to be talking about three benefits of why being the three benefits, like my top three benefits that come to mind when it comes to being a healthier and stronger parent. Because and this I'm just gonna say I'm gonna preface with this that you may or may not agree with some of the things I say when it comes to this, and don't get heated or don't get mad at me or anything like that. But I feel like in general most people would agree with the things that I'm about to say, just because at the end of the day, like being healthier, being stronger, it's definitely not a negative, right? It's definitely not a negative. Like, who says being healthier is a bad thing? And I just also want to preface that I wholeheartedly believe that your weight does not define your worth, but it is something that can impact your health. And so, just it would be negligent of me to ignore that fact, and I don't think anybody's arguing that fact. I think that a lot of times people get either offended because other people have been dicks about it in the past. Just to be like completely honest, people have been total jerks, and that people have like that they've got that history of assholes basically just being jerks and just like judging people for their weight and things like that. And that's not what this is. This is just laying out like three like practical reasons why being on a health journey or a fitness journey, to prioritize like fat loss or to get stronger, body recomp, why that's actually like beneficial for you and beneficial for not only just you as like for yourself, but also you as a parent. And so we're gonna go over these here in just a second, but as you guys are tuning in, who here has memories potentially of their childhood, right? Because a lot of times cycles repeat themselves, right? If you are currently overweight, or struggling with your health, there's probably a good chance that your parents also were struggling with their health, or were overweight. And there's a reason for that, right? Like we learn a lot from our parents. Our parents were, more than likely our role models, or maybe you were raised by your grandparents or whatever it may be. But at some, point in your life, you had a role model, that you were following, and either it was a role model that prioritized like their health and like their longevity and things like that, or maybe they weren't, right? And it's no fault of a child, to have the role models that they have. Because as a kid, you don't really have a choice when it comes to that sort of stuff. You're kind of at the mercy or the whim of adults. And so today, I'm going to be talking about why, now that you are an adult, if you're watching this right now, and especially if you are a parent, you can, break that potential cycle that you were born into, being a part of, as a kid. And so, as you guys are watching this, feel free to chime in, and let me know, your thoughts on this. But we're going to go over these top three benefits as to why it's best, not best, but I think in general better to be a healthier, stronger parent, for yourself and for your kids. But if you're watching this a later time, hashtag replay, so that way I know that you guys saw this. Give this video a like so other people have a chance to see it. And we're going to jump into things. So, my top three reasons why being a fitter or a stronger or healthier parent, is beneficial, is a net positive, is one, right? We cannot ignore this, right? Like longevity in general, like the healthier you are, right? The healthier you are, the more you exercise, the more that you eat right, the longer you're going to live for, right? The longer you're going to live for, the longer you're going to be around, for your kids, and for your potential, maybe your grandkids, and for and this is something that, I never really thought that much about, or like, cared a ton about, other than for my own like selfish needs. But before I had a kid, was like, I want to live as long as possible. Like, and you you're only here for so long, and to make the most of it, the best way to do that is to live as long as possible. And so, by being a healthier, stronger, parent, you're gonna live longer. You will, unless something crazy happens, which that's outside of your control. Like, that's one of those things that like exercising, eating right, doing some level of cardio on a weekly basis, like, doing these things is setting you up for success to live a longer, happier, healthier life, more capable life, um, where you have more control of of what's going on. Like, I don't think anybody would disagree with, wanting to live longer for the most part. Unless you're in a bad place right now, but it's one of those things like, I truly believe that if you uh, you know I really like this quote. It's you either are you can take your food as medicine now, or your medicine is food later. And that like quote kind of hits a little bit hard, just because not a lot of people think about like the long term impacts. Like, everybody like is so often living in the now, and I really I preach and talk about a lot about being present in the moment and things like that, and that's good. But it's not if you're literally taking 5, 10, 20, 30 years off of your life, if not more, because you're not giving a shit about your health right now, right? And so that quote, like, you can either do your body good this right now while you still can, while you're still young enough to do it. Or and then I will say, like, age is just a number to an extent. You can start anytime, but the sooner you start and the earlier you start, the better off you're going to be. The easier it's going to be too, because you're not going to have the wear and tear on your body for decades, that some people are dealing with right now. And so if you do pursue a fitness or a health journey, it's going to pay off in more ways than just now and the instant gratification and things like that. You're adding years to your life. You're saving yourself shit tons of money, from not having to pay for expensive medical bills and medication and surgeries and things like that you're probably going to have to get done, from having decades of unhealthy habits, and a lot of, like, if you're like, if you're like severely overweight, like, all that pressure on your joints and your knees and your back and your like discs in your back and things like that, like, your organs, like having like fatty liver disease and things like that, like, long term is not good. And so that's the first benefit, like, I'll say, is longevity, and not just longevity, not just living for a long time, but there's that whole saying, it's like, I want to be here for I want to be here for a good time, not a long time. Well, like, you can have both. You can be here for a good time and a long time, by doing these things, by starting a journey, by starting now, and like, getting ahead of the game, and getting ahead of it before it becomes like a snow. It's like with anything, you can snowball good shit, right? You can snowball good habits and good routines and things like that in your health in a positive direction. But you can snowball in a bad way too, and a lot of people have, and a lot of people recognize that, and they know that, because that you might have lived, you might be living that right now. But I just want to let you know, like, you can turn shit around, and if you can get momentum going in one direction, you can get momentum just as much, if not more, going in the other direction. And so if you're swinging really low right now and you're in a bad place, like, you can swing high. It just, it's going to take time though, right? It's going to take time. But so that's the first thing, longevity, right? Longevity, and thinking, it's one of those things too. It's like, being more capable in terms of, like, like, think of it this way, like, if you're taking this into consideration, like, think about your kids, right? Think about your kids. Like, do you think your kids would, not only do you get a better quality of life from it, but your kids are going to be getting a better quality of life from it too? Because think of it this way, like, do you think your kids would appreciate and would enjoy, or have a more net positive, like, life, or like week to week or day to day, if you were able to go take them hiking, or go outside with them and play with them, and, like, play sports with them, or whatever they're into, right? Do you think that they would benefit and feel better about that more? Or do you think they are, better off, like, being a couch locked kid, because you're a couch locked parent, and you're just hanging out watching TV for hours on end every day at the end of the day, right? Like, which one sounds like it's probably going to have a more positive impact on your kid, right? And so, not only are you giving yourself a longer, more higher quality of life, but you're also giving your kids, like, that building block, that foundation to do that themselves as well. So that's the other thing. So that's number one. Number two, though, right? And this kind of ties into what I just said. You're setting the example, right? You're setting the example for them. You're being a role model for them. And I talk about this a lot, because I work with primarily women, but a large majority of my clientele are moms. You are setting an example, right? You like, no matter what, whether you like it or not, like, deal with it. You are there. You're like, unless you're not in the picture for your kids, you are your kids' greatest role model, You are, whether you like it or not. And so, they're going to pick up on your habits, whether those are good habits or bad habits, right? They're probably going to get a little mix of both, and that's part of the process. But we want to give our kids as many good habits and routines and skill sets as possible while they're growing up. Not just like, in school and learning how to do math and shit like that, but like learning how to eat healthy, learning how to like exercise healthily. Strength training for adults is just play for kids. It is play. Like that's what kids do all the time, or what they typically do. If they're healthy, right? Like they're able to they play like strength training and like exercise and things like that. That's just like adult playing. Like that's how I view it in a lot of ways. It's just me getting to go like hang on a chin up bar and pull myself up and curl some stuff and move heavy weight and that's just how it is. And so for kids in a lot of ways they view it as play, except it's like good for them. It improves their coordination, it improves their strength, like their how they can control their bodies and things like that. It's really good for them. And so if you're setting that example, that this is something fun, that this is something enjoyable, that this is something that they can do too, then you're setting them up for so much success. It's not even funny, as long as you're not like, because and I will say there are some, like I grew up like knowing some parents who took it to the extreme and made sports and made exercise and made things like that and food not fun, right? And you can always take it to the extreme. There is such thing as too much of a good thing or a bad thing. I'm not saying like like be looking over your kid's plate and being like, did you track that in MyFitnessPal? Did you do this? Did you shouldn't do that. No, but you can help your kids know how to make mindful choices, and you can explain to your kids like protein's good for this reason and carbs are like good for this reason. In fact, and you can create a healthier relationship with food for your kids that you might not have had because either your parents were way far off and in a bad way, being hyper obsessive over it by trying to make you perform at a certain level, or in the opposite direction where I hear this a lot just because that's kind of what the culture of it was back then. But like your mom or maybe your grandma was always when you were a teenager, or maybe even before that, saying like, don't eat that, you're gonna get fat, blah 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 blah. Like planning these like this this bad shitty framework for your mindset from a young age, and that's impacting you still to this day potentially, right? Like that you can take it in that bad direction too. Like that's not good. And so being able to be like the dream example that you always wish you had, so you didn't turn out how where you're at right now with your own mindset surrounding food or exercise or things like that. Like you can do that. Like you have that, like the power to do that for yourself and for your kids right now, and to be the role model that you always wanted to be. Like you're a grown ass fucking adult. Like you can do this for yourself. Like right now, like you can start learning how to do these things. You can hire somebody to teach you how to do these things. You can do your own research online. Like there's bountiful amounts of knowledge out there. If there's something you want to know about, you can look it up. We live in like the age of the internet. Like come on. Like if this is something that you really want, like you just have to start. So that's the other thing. Like be the parent that you always wish that you had, right? Like in those areas of your life, right? And so and you can, if you're my client watching this right now, feel free to chime in, like post a comment like in there saying like, because like it's true, like when you start working on yourself with your fitness and your health, right, your kids follow along. They pay attention. They pay attention. I cannot tell you how many of my clients, are like, oh, like now my kid like wants to go for walks or likes to like exercise with me and do the workouts with me, or they like to, they like to do those things. They like to help, eat certain things. And like some of their kids are even like learning about what macros are and why they're important. It's like some of these kids are like 5, 6, and 7 years old, and it's like you telling me that this 5-year old knows what macros are and understands some of these basic concepts from a foundational standpoint, and they're gonna, how helpful that is going to be for that kid growing up, like being a teenager and high school and things like that, and feeling in control, because knowledge is power, and the more power you have, the more that you're gonna feel in control. Like that's freaking awesome. And like those parents that are working right now, they're setting their kids up for success above and beyond what a majority of people or even the fucking public school system does. Because I'm gonna be honest, like, yeah, they teach some of this stuff in health class and stuff, but not to the extent that it needs to be done. Like there is a huge fucking knowledge gap when it comes to nutrition in public school. And maybe I just went to I did go to a shitty high school, but like it's a very poor high school. But it's one of those things that like it's not taught enough in school. And so as parents, you have to step it up and set that example and teach them about these things. So that way they don't feel lost and they don't feel like they're, there's something wrong with them when they're in high school because they feel out of control with their body or something like that because you didn't step up and you didn't set the example because you didn't know how to do it in the first place. So you need to learn and you need to set the example and teach them how to do this shit. Yeah. So that's my other thing. And you can ask like a lot of the parents like that I work with, like honestly, like their kids are learning from them because they're setting the example. They are being the positive role model that they always, that they might have wished that they had as a kid. And to be able to be that for your own kids and be the parent that you wish that you had potentially, like like that's a very good feeling to have as a parent. So that's the other thing. And the other thing too. So this last one, this is the last one, right? Number three, you are just a more capable parent. You are a more capable parent if you are healthier, if you are stronger. And why do I say this? Why do I say this? I've had clients tell me that in situations where they otherwise probably wouldn't have been able to like catch their kid because their kid ran off into the street, like they were able to grab their kid and catch them before they were able to do that. And they told me they were like, I otherwise honestly I don't know if I would have been able to like catch up to them in time to stop them from running out in the middle of the road. Like you like how bad like how like I, in that situation like if that were to happen that's just not a good situation no matter what. But like how shitty would somebody feel if that happened to their kid and they would always be wondering like in the back of their mind like what if I could have done something differently, what if I could have caught them, or what if I and you weren't able to because of that, right? And I'm not saying this is like I'm not saying this to be like a dick or anything like that, but just honestly like in this situation this client of mine, the parent that I'm working with, she was able to catch her kid. She was able to catch up to her kid. I don't know if there was a car coming or anything like that. Like, who knows? But like, she was still able to catch her kid when they took off into the street, right? Because kids do that shit sometimes. Like, especially if they're younger, if they're a toddler and they're not paying attention, or they're just like they have no sense of what's going on or what. And for them to be able to step it up and to be like, healthy and fit enough to do that in a when it mattered the most, like that shit is powerful, right? That shit is powerful. And some of you that are watching this right now, you might be thinking to yourself, like, man, like, because you might not have ever thought of this before. This might have been a blind spot, right? You might not have ever thought of like, oh damn, like, if I like, what would happen if like my kid took off and I wasn't able to catch them, or what would happen if my kid like I don't know, like if you're taking them out on a boat or something and they fell off the boat, like would I be able to like swim and save them and that kind of shit? Like honestly, like and a lot of times like you don't know until you're put into that situation. But I would rather be above and beyond prepared to do whatever it takes to like save my kid, and be able to physically be able to do that and be healthy enough to do that. And maybe now you're sitting here thinking like I don't know if I could, and that should be a warning sign or a telltale sign to be like get your shit together. Like honestly, like get your shit together because like your kids are relying on you. Like they are. Like you are like pretty much solely responsible for how they turn out and what happens to them, right? Like you are the biggest like major factor in their lives that like determines how capable they are, how healthy they're going to be probably later down the road. Obviously there's crazy things that happen, but like like for the majority and the general like average person, like that is like a factual statement. You're their biggest role model. And to be capable enough to like save them or take care of them if shit hit the fan, like that's powerful. Like that is strong. That is awesome. And to not be able to do that, that's not awesome. To be honest. And so and it's one of those things too. It's like not only to be like more capable to like save them in these like potential like scary situations that may or may not happen, right? But like also just to be able to like there's been other scenarios too where like kids falling or like react and catch them and stuff like that. Like kids fall all the time, but just to be able to like just to be like wow, like I was able to like react and catch my kid, and I was strong enough to like hold them up and like be able to carry them and play with them, like play with them, right? Like to be able to play with your kid and without having to like run out of breath all the time, right? Like that's pretty freaking awesome, right? To be capable to run around with your kid and to be able to play catch with them or to play tag or to take them to the park, and to not be like this. These are not my words specifically, but these are words or like kind of like a quote from a client, but just like I don't have to be the floor parent anymore, right? I don't have to be a floor parent anymore. I don't have to be the parent that just like lays on the floor and like plays with my kid, or lays on the couch and lets my kid do their own thing. Like they can actively fucking play with their kid, and be present and not just be like dicking around on your phone while sitting on the couch all day, but be able to actually like physically play or like wrestle with your kid, or like go on walks with them and things like that. And like it's one of those things that 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 some people can't do right now. And like honestly, like like you want to tell me that you don't want that for you and for them, right? Like you don't want that for them. You don't want that for yourself. Like you don't want to be like you don't want to have that kind of life with your kids. And so I'll leave it on this. I'll leave it on this. So a lot of times, as parents, and it can oftentimes feel this way. Parents a lot of times feel like taking time for themselves, right, to go work out or to eat healthy or whatever, or have like that self care time. A lot of times parents feel like that's selfish, so they always put themselves on the back burner. But to take that time for themselves to be healthier, to be stronger, but it's not selfish. And I would argue that it is ridiculously selfish to have a kid and not be there for them or be a healthy role model for them, right? I would argue that it's some parents think it's really selfish because they feel like they don't have time for themselves, or they don't let themselves have time for themselves to take care of themselves in this way, whether that be working on your body or your mindset or your nutrition or your body through nutrition or workouts. A lot of times parents feel like that's selfish, but I think that's bullshit. I think that's a scarcity mindset. I think that's a limiting belief that you're putting on yourself. And I think that if you have a kid and you are not there for them and you are setting a shitty example for them, you are being selfish for your kid. That is selfish. So let that sit in. That's what I'm going to leave you guys with today. I hope that this was powerful. I hope that this resonated. I hope that if you're somebody who is wanting to start a fitness journey for yourself or a health journey for yourself, that you will. Like, if you feel a little guilty right now, good. Like honestly, like if you feel a little guilty right now, you should feel a little bit guilty right now. If I think that's a good thing. I think that's a sign that you want to change and you want to make a change for yourself, and that you want to be there for your kids in this way. And if you know what you need to do, then go do it. If you feel like you don't know what you need to do, or you feel like you're struggling right now to hold yourself accountable to do what you know that you need to do, fucking hire somebody to do it, or sign up for a program. Not my, you don't have to do it with me. Find somebody where you're at. I don't give a shit, but just do something about it, and just don't sit here and watch this live and then be like, well, I'm gonna do something, and then you wait a couple hours and you don't do shit, and then life lives on repeat until you hear another one of my lives, and then you're just like, oh, I need to do it. I need to do it. Like fucking go do something. Like prove it. Prove it. But yeah, guys, that's all I got for you guys today. Be the parent that you always wanted, that you always wish that you had, right? If that's the situation, like, right? If it, those, like, being a healthy and being a strong parent is good. It's a beneficial thing. It's beneficial for yourself. It's beneficial for your kids. It's beneficial for everybody. At the end of the day, and I hope that this was powerful. I hope that this helped you. Maybe recognize some blind spots, or maybe help inspire you to do something about it, because I want you to reach your goals. I want you to be happier. I want you to be healthier. I want your kids to be happier and healthier. But nothing's going to change unless you change, and change starts within, and it starts from taking action. Because knowledge is bullshit unless you do anything with it, right? It's useless unless you act on it. So yeah. Other than that, that's all I got for you guys today. I hope that this was helpful. I hope that this was powerful. Feel free to share this if you feel like somebody would benefit from it. Feel free to give this video a like so other people get a chance to see it. And let me know your number one takeaway in the comments down below. Hope you guys have an amazing rest of your Wednesday. And other than that, I will talk to you all tomorrow. See you guys.